Welcome back. Tonight in Cleveland, the 17 Republican candidates for president appear in Cleveland. The top 10 share the stage in prime time. The lower polling candidates will debate this afternoon. Reporter Dave Levinthal of the Center for Public Integrity joins us now with a preview. Dave, great to have you here.
Hey, good to be with you.
Great being able to talk about all this with you. It is still very early in the process. This is 2015. The primaries and the caucuses aren't until early next year. And, of course, Americans don't go to the polls in earnest until, 15 months from now. But there is, having said all of that, there is a tremendous amount of anticipation heading into tonight's encounters, plural, in Cleveland.
Without question. And two words for the second of the two debates that are going to occur tonight. Donald Trump. He's truly the wild card. Nobody knows exactly what he's going to do, what approach he's going to take, and even Donald Trump's own staff, when asked, hey, what's he going to do? Is he going to attack? Is he going to try to hold back a little bit? They said, we just simply don't know. But the crazy thing about all of this is just the sheer number of people who are going to be up on the stage. You've got 10 candidates. You've got 3 moderators. Imagine around this table, 13 people sitting around. Imagine trying to get a word in edgewise. It's going to be effectively an impossibility for anyone to dominate the debate. So all the candidates are really going to have to work extra hard to try to get in that zinger, try to get in that one-liner, really get something said during the debate. It is 2 hours, but still, the time goes fast to ultimately stand out from what is going to be a mosh pit of a political debate.
If Donald Trump's tone and demeanor are less of that, really flamboyant and tenacious style that we've seen, what would that say to you about perhaps his sense of being able to develop some lasting momentum and staying power that he won't be, as a lot of the analysts have kind of suspected up until now, that he's going to be one of these, he's going to be a summer fling, one of many perhaps who enjoys a moment at the top spot in the polls. What will it say to you if we do see a different Donald Trump tonight?
It will say that he's going to be willing to change his approach, change his tactics in order to, in his own mind, try to go forward in a different way to sustain that momentum. It's one thing to rise to the top. We saw this in 2012 all the time. There was Michelle Bachmann who was up. There was Herman Cain who was up. Newt Gingrich and Rick Santorum, they all had their moment in the sun, and they all fell back to earth. Now, Donald Trump is leading in the polls. There's no question. But polls are temporal. They are moments in time. And what is the truth in August, early August right now, can be entirely different even in September. So the fact that Donald Trump is leading in the polls right now is effectively meaningless in terms of the bearing that it's going to have on what happens in February when we have the Iowa caucuses and the New Hampshire primary. So the trick for Donald Trump, or frankly any of the candidates, is if you get to the top, how do you stay there? And tonight's debate is going to be a first early indication as to what Donald Trump is going to say on the issues relative to what all the other candidates and his competitors are saying to try to maintain that momentum that he absolutely does have right now.
If he's less outrageous and less pugnacious tonight, and if he can sustain that persona, that approach, if you will, for 2 hours, which would require more discipline than I think some people think Donald Trump has, does he risk alienating the people who have gravitated to his campaign till now?
What's made him work is that he's sort of an anti-candidate candidate. He's doing everything and saying everything that most normal, typical candidates would never say or do.
And wouldn't be able to survive if they did.
Without question. But he is Donald Trump, so he stands out just for that reason. But expect the debate moderators. You've got Megyn Kelly, who's going to be there, Bret Baier. You've got Chris Wallace. They're going to be asking questions certainly about substance. And so foreign policy, for example, I'm curious to find out what he's going to say on issues relative to, say, a Rand Paul, who is much more of a non-interventionalist, somebody who would take a different approach than many of the other candidates. Some hot-button issues like ISIS, Syria. These types of issues are ones that obviously are going to require a little bit of nuance. It's going to be a challenge for any of the candidates because they're only going to have a single minute to answer the questions. Rebuttals are 30 seconds. It turns out, it appears that none of the candidates are going to have an opportunity to even make an opening statement. That appears to be the way that it's going to work out tonight. So as a result, it's going to be difficult even for Donald Trump to talk about substantial issues in a substantive way, but that's a big challenge for him and everyone else.
A lot of the analysts have said in the last couple of days that Jeb Bush, who may be the leading establishment candidate, that he has stumbled his way into Cleveland because of the comments he made about funding for women's health. What's the Jeb Bush team hoping does and doesn't happen tonight?
He has had a bad week. He's said that and a couple of other things that have garnered him some less than flattering headlines. But he's been a little bit different than some of the candidates, first of all, and definitely a lot different than Hillary Clinton, who you can expect that most of the candidates are going to mention in some form or fashion tonight. He's been incredibly accessible. He's welcomed the media to ask him questions on just about any topic. And also, too, he's been very off the cuff. So his approach seems to be, well, we're going to be conversational. We're going to be somebody who has the appearance of being accessible, not scripted. And tonight I would expect, at least given his track record over the past couple of months, that he is going to try to be calm, be cool, be collected, not engage in a fire war with Donald Trump or anyone else. Perhaps he'll pick his moment to make a rebuttal that's going to jab at somebody, but he seems to try to, in everything that he does, float above the fray. It wouldn't be surprising if he does that again in tonight's debate.
A lot of conservatives like what they see in Scott Walker, and given the he's been doing very well in the polling in Iowa. He's from a neighboring state, so folks in Iowa know him, and there's a chance that he will be in that group of candidates who has staying power as we get into 2016 itself. If he produces a moment tonight, if he gets through without mistakes, some have criticized his campaign so far for being a little light, that his discussion, his ability to discuss and offer nuanced foreign policy positions has been a little bit disappointing till now. Are the stakes high for him, and could he, with a good performance, come out of tonight with new momentum?
He definitely could. It's important to note that there are multiple debates that are going to take place between now and February, but somebody like Scott Walker, he can say, look, I'm a strong Midwestern governor. I am in office right now. It hasn't been 8 years since I've served in office. I fought the unions. I'm a survivor. I've beaten a recount effort or a recall effort. Mm-hmm. So these are some of the things that he absolutely can stand on the stage, say, and stand out a little bit from some of the other candidates. But I'd be remiss to say, for every Scott Walker that you have on stage, pay attention to the JV debate, the junior varsity debate, the happy hour debate, as Carly Fiorina likes to call it. This is the one that's happening at 5 o'clock. There are 7 other candidates who are going to be there, some incredibly big names. You think of the fact that George Pataki, former governor of New York State, Rick Perry, former governor of Texas, who has more experience in elected state office than any of the other ones up there. These are the guys who are not going to be up on the main.
Virginia's Jim Gilmore, and sitting Senator Lindsey Graham.
And Bobby Jindal from Louisiana, sitting governor. So, ultimately, we have a lot of folks who, even though they're not doing well at all, have lousy poll numbers, don't seem to be going anywhere fast in this election, still have a heck of a lot of experience, and under different circumstances might be at the top of the pack. Mm-hmm. Including former Senator Rick Santorum, who, of course, finished second to Mitt Romney 4 years ago and now just doesn't seem to be able to get any traction. They're all going to be looking to break away from that lower 7, that bottom tier, and fight their way back for the next debates into that upper rung.
Everything about that first early debate is problematic, because it's on early, it's being mocked as the kiddie table debate. The shelf life of the event is going to be very short, because folks will talk about it for a couple of hours, maybe, between 5 o'clock and the main event, and then that event surely will become the sort of dominant thing that gets discussed for probably weeks afterward. That said, a lot of these candidates are thought of as potential vice presidential candidates, so a good showing tonight could help their cause long term.
And something that they say that really does stand out, that might even be outlandish or particularly memorable, could be the thing that helps get them out of the doldrums that they're in right now. So in a way, watch that 5 p.m. debate, because there could be fireworks there. There could be some very, very interesting takes on issues that we haven't heard before that happen there, because there's just such an incentive for all 7 of these candidates in that junior varsity debate to do something that is going to make them appear notable relative to everyone else.
And it does give you, if you're a Lindsey Graham, who's got a great sense of humor and has been on television literally countless times, or any of these other guys.
Using his cell phone as a golf ball and all the other crazy things that's been happening. Yeah.
It's a chance to attack Donald Trump, the front runner,
exactly,
on live TV without him responding, because he's not there. Trump would be unlikely to use time in the 9 o'clock, the primetime event, to respond to something that was said 4 hours earlier at the kiddie table debate. So, in a way, it's a free shot at, for the lower tier candidates. Talk about the stakes and the moment for the 3 moderators. This is a significant test for them. They're all highly regarded and skilled people. This will be the first rodeo for none of them, but it's still a big moment. A slip-up would be huge.
A slip-up is huge. Sometimes you have moderators who've struggled to moderate, have struggled to play referee. There are 3 of them there, so in a way they have the opportunity to work with each other and play off each other in order to try to corral this unwieldy group of candidates. But it's going to be difficult for them under even the best of circumstances to do that, just because of the sheer number of people and the crosstalk and all the traffic and the noise that potentially could come out of this. If somebody says something on stage and 3 other folks want to try to have their moment to make a rebuttal without making a formal rebuttal, it's going to be very difficult for the 3 moderators to reel them back in. So we could see a lot of that, and it could get a little confusing.
13 people in the event, not a shrinking violet among them.
Not at
Dave
all.
Levinthal of the Center for Public Integrity, thanks very much for your time. Great to have you here.
Thank you, Bruce.
We'll step aside. We'll get you caught up on the hour's top stories, the forecast, and then much more of the conversation. Jim Moran joins us next. Keep it here.